Hey there, I'm Elira Langdon, and I've got a story that totally changed my life. So, on December 19th, 2023, I didn't just have a near-death experience, I actually died for 6 minutes and 25 seconds. During that time, I had a mind-blowing encounter with Jesus Christ, who revealed some shocking truths about the mark of the beast that I feel compelled to share. Trust me, what I learned is gonna hit you hard. But first, let me backtrack a bit and tell you how I ended up in that situation. I was living the good life as a marketing executive in Seattle, checking all the boxes of what most people would call a blessed life. I went to church regularly and thought of myself as a decent Christian. But looking back, I realized my faith was pretty surface level. I was just going through the motions, not really living for Christ. That Tuesday morning started out like any other day. I was on my way to an important client meeting, my mind buzzing with presentations and reports. The roads were slick from some early rain, but I wasn't worried. I'd driven that route a million times before. As I got closer to the intersection of Pine and Fifth Avenue, I had no clue my life was about to flip upside down. The last thing I remember was seeing a flash of red running the light, the awful crunch of metal, and then nothing. What happened next is tough to describe. How do you explain colors that don't even exist here, or feelings that our bodies aren't built to experience? But I'll give it a shot, because what I learned on the other side is way too important to keep to myself. First off, I noticed there was no pain. 1 second, I was in terrible agony, and the next, I felt lighter than a feather. I found myself floating above my body, watching paramedics rush to try to save me. I could see everything so clearly. The crowd gathering, my crumpled car, the focused faces of the first responders. But strangely, I felt this incredible peace. Then things shifted. The scene around me started to fade, and I felt drawn toward this light that was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It wasn't just bright, it was full of life, love, and knowledge. As I moved closer, I began to hear what I can only call heavenly music, thousands of voices singing in perfect harmony in languages I'd never heard before. That's when I saw him. Jesus Christ was standing right in front of me, more real than anything I'd ever experienced. His presence was overwhelming, but not scary. It was just pure power and love. His eyes held so much depth, yet they looked at me with such kindness, making me feel completely known and loved. "Astrid," he said, and his voice resonated within me. "There are things you need to see. There are truths you have to share." What followed felt like watching a divine presentation, but instead of just seeing it, I felt everything deep in my spirit. Jesus showed me visions of the near future, and honestly, what I saw was both terrifying and enlightening. I saw people willingly accepting what looked like cool tech, little chips being implanted in their hands or foreheads. These devices were sold as the next big thing in human evolution, a way to make life easier and more connected. But Jesus revealed the scary truth behind these innovations. "Watch closely," he told me, "because this is something my children need to understand." The vision changed, and I saw how these seemingly harmless tech advances would eventually become mandatory. First for government workers, then for folks in the private sector, and finally for everyone. What started as a convenience would turn into the only way to buy food, get health care, or even participate in society. What really hit me was how sneaky it all was. There wasn't any big announcement saying it was the mark of the beast. Instead, it was all wrapped up in talk about progress and innovation, like it was just the next cool step in our tech evolution. People weren't being forced into it. They were actually excited to get on board. Then Jesus showed me something that broke my heart. Christians who had studied prophecy for years still getting fooled. They thought it would be obvious, something clear clearly evil. But the deception came dressed up in progress and prosperity. Tell them, Jesus said, that the mark won't show up how they think. It'll come promising peace, security, and convenience. It'll look like it's solving problems that seem impossible. It'll be like a friend, not a foe. He showed me how it would start as a voluntary thing, but would slowly become a must-have for everyday life. Those who said no would first deal with annoying inconveniences, then face discrimination, and eventually persecution. But then Jesus also showed me something beautiful: groups of believers who decided to stay true to their faith. These communities had set up their own systems of support and trade. They lived simply but freely, holding on to their beliefs even as the pressure to conform grew. Jesus told me firmly, "My children need to get ready now, not out of fear, but with wisdom and love. They should build communities, strengthen their faith, and learn to live differently from the world." He went into detail about how the mark would roll out. I was told to share this info. First, it would kick off as a way to fight identity theft and financial fraud. Second, it would be sold as a way to keep kids and the elderly safe. Third, it would promise to tackle human trafficking and illegal immigration. Fourth, it would offer crazy convenience and security. Fifth, it would get the thumbs up from respected religious leaders. These leaders would argue it couldn't be the mark because it didn't require denying Christ. But Jesus made it clear, the mark's real power wouldn't be in its tech. It would be about what accepting it really meant. A final choice between trusting human systems or putting your faith in God. As these visions went on, Jesus explained more about when these things might happen. While he didn't give me exact dates, reminding me that no one knows the day or hour, he showed me signs to look out for: a global economic crisis that would make digital currency feel necessary, more natural disasters that would make tracking and identifying people seem crucial, a push for global unity that would make resisting worldwide systems look selfish and dangerous, a tech breakthrough that would make the mark seem like the obvious next step in human progress. But what Jesus stressed the most wasn't the mark itself. It was the preparation believers needed to start now. He showed me how Christians should take specific steps, strengthen their personal relationship with God through prayer and Bible study, build strong, supportive communities with other believers, pick up practical skills to help them live independently of the system, find alternative ways to trade goods and services. Most importantly, cultivate a rock-solid faith that God would take care of them. Jesus then showed me something that made me tear up: the eternal consequences of accepting the mark. This wasn't just about earthly convenience or survival. It was about eternal souls. The mark would change those who accepted it, cutting off their connection to God in a way that couldn't be reversed. Jesus spoke with deep compassion. Tell them that no convenience is worth their soul. Tell them that I will provide for those who stay faithful. Tell them not to fear, for I am with them always, even to the end of the age. He showed me how some believers would choose martyrdom over accepting the mark. Their sacrifice would inspire others to stand strong. But he also showed me how he would miraculously provide for many who refused the mark, just like he provided manna for the Israelites in the wilderness. Then the vision shifted to reveal something surprising: how the mark would impact people spiritually. Those who accepted it wouldn't realize what they'd done right away. Gradually, their ability to see spiritual truth would fade, and their hearts would harden, not all at once. You know, there comes a point when people stop feeling the Holy Spirit nudging them, and that's a big deal. Jesus explained that once you reach that point, it's like flipping a switch. It changes how you can respond to God. This isn't just about technology out there. It's about something deep inside that can't be reversed. But then, he showed me something really amazing. Even though we'd be going through tough times, it would also spark a huge revival. As the world gets more obvious in its opposition to God, a lot of people will start to see the truth and turn to Jesus. I could see young people leading the charge, choosing a genuine relationship with Christ over whatever digital mark everyone else was going for. The vision also showed some tough scenes. Families would be at odds, trying to convince each other to accept the mark. Employers would make it mandatory, and society would turn its back on those who didn't go along with it. But Jesus kept reminding me that he would take care of those who stayed faithful, just like he took care of Elijah by the brook Cherith. He spoke with urgency. Tell them to get ready now. It's all about building strong foundations before the storm hits, not while it's raging. He then laid out some practical steps for believers to prepare. Learn how to grow and preserve food. Pick up basic medical skills and natural remedies. Connect with other trustworthy believers. Set up alternative ways to communicate and create local support systems to share resources. But the most important part? Spiritual prep. Dive deep into the Bible. Memorize scripture. Build an unshakable faith through challenges. Learn to hear and follow God's voice, and develop strong prayer lives and close relationships with Him. As our time together drew to a close, Jesus looked at me with a love that I can only describe as overwhelming. It wasn't just a feeling. It was as if every part of me was wrapped in His presence. A love so deep that it seemed to hold the entire universe together. Then He spoke, and His voice wasn't just heard. It resonated through every part of me, filling me with peace and purpose. He told me something that has stayed etched in my heart ever since. This isn't about fear, it's about faith. Let them know I'm coming back soon, and those who endure, those who remain steadfast, will be saved. No power on earth can ever separate them from my love if they choose to stay faithful to me. I can't explain how those words made me feel in that moment. It wasn't just hope, it was certainty. It was the kind of assurance that no matter what happens, no matter how dark the days may seem, His love is stronger than anything this world can throw at us. I could feel that love, not just for me, but for everyone who calls on His name. It's a love that longs for us to stay close to Him, even when the world tries to pull us away. Then Jesus showed me one final vision, and it's something I'll never forget for as long as I live. It was a glimpse of His return, a moment so breathtakingly glorious that it's hard to put into words. Imagine a light so bright and pure that it fills every corner of existence, not just with brilliance, but with life itself. That's what it was like. I saw Him coming back, and the joy on the faces of those who had stayed faithful was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It was a joy that came from deep within, a joy that erased every hardship, every struggle, every sacrifice. In that moment, I realized that all the challenges, all the temptations to give up, all the pressures to conform to the world were nothing compared to the reward of being with Him forever. The people who had stayed true, who had chosen Him over convenience, comfort, or even safety, were radiant. Their faces glowed with a happiness that no words could fully capture. It wasn't just relief or excitement. It was the kind of joy that only comes from knowing you've made it home, that you've been welcomed into the arms of the one who loves you more than you could ever imagine. As the vision faded and I felt myself being pulled back to the world, I carried with me the deep understanding that this life isn't about avoiding hardship or seeking comfort. It's about staying close to Jesus, trusting His love, and knowing that no matter how difficult things might get, He's already won. His return will make every moment of faithfulness worth it, and the joy of being with Him will far outweigh any earthly sacrifice. Then, all of a sudden, I felt myself being pulled back. The heavenly music started to fade, And the next thing I knew, I was gasping for air in a hospital bed, surrounded by shocked medical staff who were about to call my time of death. The doctors called my recovery a miracle, and honestly, it was. I had been clinically dead for over 7 minutes. By all medical standards, I should have had some serious brain damage, but I was physically fine, and my spirit and emotions totally transformed. Since that day, I've dedicated my life to sharing what Jesus revealed to me. Some people roll their eyes at my experience, and that's cool. I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I just want to share what I saw and heard, because that's what I was told to do. Here's the key thing I want you to get. The mark of the beast won't come across as this obviously evil thing that's easy to reject. Instead, it'll look like a solution to real problems, backed by trusted leaders and embraced by the crowd. The deception will be sneaky, which is why keeping your spiritual discernment sharp is super important. There's so much hope in the message Jesus revealed to me, and I want to share it in a way that feels like a conversation with a trusted friend. He showed me that no matter how hard things get in the future, He will always take care of those who remain faithful to Him. He'll guide them with wisdom when they ask for it, give them strength when they need it most, and provide for their needs when they put their trust in Him. These aren't just words, they're promises that come straight from His heart. Yes, the times ahead will bring challenges. There will be moments when standing firm in your faith might feel lonely or overwhelming. Society will push for things that seem harmless, even helpful, but Jesus wants us to be ready to discern the truth. The difficulties we may face, whether it's pressure from loved ones, challenges at work, or feeling like we're swimming against the tide, are not the end of the story. They're a chance for us to lean on Him, to grow stronger in our faith, and to experience His presence in ways we never have before. What's incredible is that even in these hard times, God will be moving in powerful ways. Jesus showed me a future filled with moments of amazing spiritual awakening. People, especially young ones, will rise up with a hunger for truth, rejecting false promises in favor of a real life-changing relationship with Him. These young believers will be fearless and passionate, inspiring others to turn to Jesus. Communities of faith will grow stronger, coming together to support one another, sharing resources, and building systems of care that reflect God's love and provision. I want to make this clear. Jesus doesn't want us to be afraid. Fear isn't His plan for us. Faith is. This message isn't meant to make you feel anxious or overwhelmed. Instead, it's about getting ready, building a strong foundation before the storm hits. Think of it like preparing for a trip. You pack what you'll need so you're not scrambling later. Jesus wants us to prepare our hearts now so we're ready when it really counts. That means spending time with Him, talking to Him in prayer, and letting His words sink deep into our hearts by reading the Bible. It means connecting with others who share your faith, creating a support system where you can lean on one another when things get tough. It's also about practical steps, learning skills that can help you live more simply and independently, whether it's growing your own food, finding natural ways to take care of your health, or creating ways to communicate and trade outside of mainstream systems. Most importantly, it's about building such a close relationship with Jesus that His voice becomes unmistakable in your life. He wants to guide you, protect you, and fill you with a peace that no situation can shake. The future might be uncertain, but His love and victory are not. Choose faith, trust in Him, and know that He will be with you every step of the way. Remember this last truth. Jesus didn't just show me the challenges ahead. He showed me His victory. And for those who stay faithful, that victory is guaranteed. The choice will be ours, a little temporary convenience or eternal life with Christ. When the time comes, let's all make the wise choice.